You know.
Good evening and welcome to the Vermillion Local School District Board of Education regular meeting, Monday, May 11th, 2015. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Ennis? Here. Mr. Dawson? Mr. Haberman?
Here.
Mr. Harding?
Here.
And Mr. Rice?
Here.
We are going to start with our Citizens of the Month. So students, if you'd like to come forward and introduce you. When they are done, they will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Who wants to go first? Give them
Mine be Austin second
Teacher.
Mrs. Shea a pirate. My name is Carter. Mrs. Faulkner. Kindergarten. Astra. My name is Lena. Second, Mrs. Garcia. Second, Dr. My name is Kelsey Lacey. Second, Christina. Yvette.
Very good. Just to stay up here, it's just stay home.
My name is Kirsten Palmer. First,
And your teacher's name?
Mrs. Hume.
And then when do you go up?
Yvette. My name is Rachel Hormel.
What grade, Rachel?
Kindergarten.
Who's your teacher?
Miss Soroka.
And what do you grow up?
A doctor.
Nice.
My name is Paul Siegfried. 3,
Who's your teacher?
Miss Ling,
When do you grow up?
a scientist.
Very nice. Okay, if you sat down, come back up here, the Citizens of the Month, because you're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all rise, please, Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Guys ready? We're gonna start. Let's start.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Well done.
It's all about it.
Again, thank you to all our Citizens of the Month. It's always a pleasure to have you come join us and tell us a little bit about yourself. Moving on to item number 5, student liaison update. Mr. Rice.
Well, Mr. Carmack, unfortunately, is not going to make it tonight, so we're going to postpone this till next week. We had something nice planned,
Or next one.
but next month, excuse me, yeah. So, sorry, but things happen, so.
That's right, thank you. And on to number 6, legislative update. Mr. Harding.
Yeah, we're going to revisit House Bill 64 again. That is the budget. It was sent down to the House and was revised. I just want to thank any of the parents and faculty that sent letters or made calls to your state representatives. It did make a difference. The revised House Bill 64 will be it has passed the House and will be not losing any money for the school districts in the 16-17 year as was proposed. The bill now goes on to the Senate, and on Wednesday the 13th, which is only a couple of days away, they will be having an open session with the public and the school districts to hear all our concerns. So it is moving on, and it does look like it will pass, and we won't lose the $600,000 that we may have lost in 17. Should be staying at the same amount we're getting this year. Good news.
That is good.
Great news.
Any questions from the
Squeaky wheel, right?
Down to item number 7, public participation. Anybody that would like to come forward and speak? And if so, state your name and keep it brief, please. All right, moving right along, seeing none. On to item number 8, the reports. We'll start with the superintendent's report.
This is not on the report or on the agenda, but it was a tough day today at the elementary building. And over the weekend, one of our kindergarten students, Xander Cormier, passed away. And it was a very tough day for the staff. I thank the principal, I thank Buffy, I thank the teachers over there for making it as good as they could under the circumstances. So that was a very tough thing, obviously, for teachers, for the family. And I just want to let it be known that on our Facebook, a friend of the family has established a GoFundMe account. And so that's up on our Facebook page, and our counselors, Buffy, who's in the audience tonight, will continue to help be a resource there for the children if they need it during the school week, sing with the teachers, and they're obviously taking this very hard, and it's a tough day. So that's the first thing that was on my mind. It was not on the agenda. We've got, and I'm just going to really list all of these at once. Teacher Appreciation Week, School Nutrition Employee Week, National School Nurse Day, and School Bus Driver Appreciation Day. It's kind of a month and actually a week that all of these things came up this year. And I'll be honest with you, this has been a year like no other year, and we usually try to do a better job of recognizing this. So I know that the board always likes this to be on the agenda. And so it's just been a very busy year, and I just want those people to all know, and I'm sure the board wants them to know that it's not that we don't appreciate them. It's just been such a busy year with all the extra things that have gone on. And so this is just a time where we can take a few minutes in public at a board meeting in this way and just thank them for everything that they've done, because without the teachers, the nurses, the school personnel, the bus drivers, we couldn't do what we do. They all do a wonderful job. They all work hard for our kids. And I'm sure that the board agrees that this needed to be put on the agenda, and they needed to be recognized formally too. So.
Agreed. Yes, I think we're very lucky to have the great staff that we do to keep us going and going in a positive direction. Thank you.
All right, the other thing that I wanted to do, at the middle school, I wanted to recognize the Sailor Way teachers for their voluntary efforts. They had a homework club this year and a tutoring club on Thursday evenings at Grace's Kitchen. So once a week at the school and once a week at on Thursday at the Grace's Kitchen, they would have students anyone that would need tutoring or help with homework, with any schoolwork. The staff did this on a voluntary basis, and so it was really a staff effort, and it was strictly voluntary, and it kind of goes along with the first item where there's a lot of behind-the-scene things, whether it's a teacher, a bus driver, a nurse, one of our food service workers. A lot of volunteer time goes in it, a lot of prep that is not recognized sometimes. And this is just another one of those things that they did on their own time, and just wanting to bring recognition to that as well. Okay, I'm going to skip over the facility update. Mr. Reedy, I think, might be coming in a little bit later on this one, so we can maybe just skip ahead and then come back and we'll ask him to catch us up on the facilities. So that's all I have under superintendent's report.
Thank you. On to part B, treasurer's report.
Number 1, review April 30th, 2015 financial reports, and number 2, approve March 31st, 2015 financial reports.
Move.
A second.
Any discussion?
You've got it in your packet today, the comparison to the forecast, like I've been doing every month. The first column is the 5-year forecast as it was approved in October. So that's going to change next month because you're going to approve a new forecast tonight. So overall, we're 83–84% through the year. Our revenues are at 98%. We've received most of our real estate revenue. So that's, it's not that we're going to get a lot more there. It's just that we've received most of it, and our expenditures are at 90%. And we're winding down the year, and so that's to be expected also. One of the main areas we talked about at our work session is the purchase services. And I had that estimated at $3.780 million, and we're at $4.2 million. So that's an area where I think this summer we really need to work on with the buildings and departments and so on.
With all the renovations, I would think that
Yeah, and
this
that's,
is going to drop drastically in the coming year.
that's what I'm hoping, that we had some things that we had to pay for out of general fund while the project was going on. But, you know, they were related to building project but couldn't be paid from the project. For example, extra dumpsters, that kind of thing.
So when do you see this fall is kind of the time period where we'll start to see a decline, drastic decline in those numbers?
The new fiscal year starts July 1. So I think this summer, you know, we need to go through and analyze and see, you know, which ones are reoccurring and which ones are not. And then go from there to see if we need to cut back anywhere else.
Is there a chance, like with the purchase services, that any of it is kind of flow through from the prior year because we didn't spend what was forecasted last year? We were
Yeah,
under,
there could be a timing difference of when bills are paid,
right.
so that could also be a possibility.
Any other discussion?
But that's again related to construction projects. Some bills have to be slower paid to make sure things are being done versus a purchase service where we're just buying a dumpster. We're paying for that within
Sometimes you have to
2
wait on
weeks.
an invoice to do
Okay.
something we only do, you know, once a year or twice a year. I wasn't here, you know, right
Gotcha.
at that point, so. Might have been too with the transitions of treasurers, bills could have been held too. Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Harding?
Yes.
Recommend a resolution to accept a donation of $250 to the Hobart Johnson Scholarship Fund from Hobart A. Johnson.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, just want to say that we are very grateful for all the individuals and organizations that do provide funds, scholarship funds for our students. We're very lucky. We've got a large number of scholarships in this district. And, we're grateful for them.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mr. Harding?
Yes.
And Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Number 4, recommend a resolution to recode building project purchase orders in amount totaling no more than $500,000 to the 06 cafeteria fund.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, this is one of the things we talked about the last two work sessions, was that 500,000 was kind of carved out of the cafeteria to go toward the building project, but the official coding of those expenditures has not been done. I wanted the board to formally approve those.
Any discussion on that?
It's just important to understand this is like not new money or, no new budgetary.
This is part of the project,
Yeah.
From the beginning, yes.
And it was in the project
Coding.
because of excess funds in the cafeteria that it would go toward improvements in the cafeteria.
So it's just-
Yeah, it's no additional funds. It was in that original budget that was set up for the building project.
Just moving it from one fund to a different fund, period.
Correct. Correct.
And that was set up from the beginning, too. It's not
Yeah.
something at the last
Right.
minute we're doing.
Right.
Yes, that's from the very beginning of the project.
Right. Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
And Mr. Harding?
Yes.
Number 5, recommend a resolution to approve the 5-year forecast as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, so if you look at the colored, the large sheet there, put it up on the screen here. Okay, so the first 3 columns of the forecast is the actual expenses from fiscal year 2012, 13, and 14. And then the current year we're in is fiscal year 15, and the estimate goes out then 4 additional years until June 30th of 2019. So at the top, you're looking at the revenues, and I need some technical help. There we go, I got it. I'm used to having my mouse. Okay, there we go. Now at the top, we have the revenues. So the different type of revenues, the real estate, the tangible personal property. We do not have income tax. Line 15, unrestricted grants and aid, that's our state foundation funds. The next line is restricted grant aid, state grant and aid, and that's just money that is received from the state that's restricted on what you can spend the money on. Property tax allocation, that's the homestead and rollback, where taxpayers get a 10% and a 2.5% discount on their taxes for the exemption for age. The state reimburses us for that currently. And then all other revenues, that's our miscellaneous category. The main thing here has, most revenues have been held constant, with the exception of tangible personal property on line 13. And the estimate for this year is $500,000, which is a big difference from the last 2 years. Fiscal year 16 through 19, that personal property tax is probably going to be phased out. Every time the state talks about a budget bill, this is one of the areas that they want to cut. So it's kind of a moving target, but I think after 19, it will be gone. I was told from someone at ODE to decrease it 20% a year, so I reduced it $100,000 each year in forecast. So you've got the total revenues and other financing sources there. And as you can see, the revenues are going down, especially when you're getting out to 17, 18, 19. And that's because our tax levy will need to be renewed. We can't reflect it here if it hasn't been voted on. And you'll see that at the bottom where it's estimated if your levy is renewed, it'll add it back in at the bottom opposed to the top. The next category, expenditures. I've left the personal services fairly flat. Next year, I've decreased the salaries by about $500,000 due to retirements that we're hoping to not replace. And then I've built in just a % or 2 for steps only for the rest of the forecast. Employee retirement insurance and benefits. That area we've been really lucky because we've been able to have holiday premiums the last few years. Fiscal year 16, we will not have a holiday. The employees are going to be paying 14% of their premium next year. This year, they only paid 13%. And then the rest of the years has not been negotiated any other change.
Justine, can you explain the holiday premium?
Yeah, so we belong to a consortium. Several schools have joined together to help carry the load of health insurance. And so our insurance is actually through Medical Mutual, but we pool our money together in one pot. And because we had extra reserves of money, they said, oh, you don't have to pay your premium for the month of December. Or 1 year it was 2 months. You don't have to pay the premium. The board or the employee does not have to pay. So that's what they call a holiday premium.
Okay.
So now we're catching up a little bit because we enjoyed that like 8% or so. Now it's going to be, that amount has got to be caught up plus another 7% or so for next year, for fiscal year 16. The next category, purchase services. As you can see, the last 3 years, what we just talked about. We were at between 3 million and almost 4 million. This year, I'm hoping we'll slide under 4.5 million. We've only got the rest of this month and next month to go. And then I've kind of lowered that down to slightly over 4 million. And that'll have to be reevaluated in October when we redo the forecast. And then I always give you those updates on a monthly basis to track those. The next few lines, supplies, materials, capital outlay. Capital outlays are equipment. And that's only in the general fund and emergency levy fund. That does not include our PI fund. That's a different fund on our books. So this entire forecast is only general fund and our emergency levy fund. Does not include cafeteria, the athletic fund, grant, all those state grants that we get are not included here. The next area is the debt, which we talked about at one of the work sessions about how that was maybe coded incorrectly in the past. So if you look at the worksheet I gave you just now, the first page is the House Bill 264 projects. So we had 3 of those. One was issued in 2001, one was issued in 2003, and the other was issued in 2007. So to get a good handle on this, I scheduled it all by fiscal year. Those will all be paid off in either fiscal year 17 or 18. So if you look at this handout I gave you, the front page is the principal on those. The back of that page is the interest. And those payments are done every other month. I'm sorry, I told you wrong. The next page, not the back. The next page is the interest. And then the back of the front page, at the top left, it says building project. this is the debt involved with this whole $20+ million project that we did here. Those bonds will be paid off in 2037. And so you can look through here. We pay principal between $400,000 and $595,000 a year. That's reflected in those line items 43 through 45. And then the bottom part here are the interest payments. And that's done twice a year. So you can see if you get the wrong account code, how confusing that this could be. And the next page, I had to accumulate all the interest. So all the interest on all the debt we have is on line 45. So I know that's a lot of information to absorb, but I wanted to give you some backup for where those numbers came from. So the good thing is the House Bill 264 projects, those, like you can see in fiscal year 19, there's nothing there. It's done. And does everyone remember what the House Bill 264 is? That's where we issue debt to make improvements. Could be windows, doors, lighting, and the savings helps pay back this debt payment. Any questions? So the next section that I have highlighted in yellow, 6.01, that's the number I talk about that's so important because that tells us if we're in deficit spending or not. And that number is the comparison between revenue and expenditures. So if it's a negative number in the red, that means we are spending more than we're taking in that year. And when that happens, then you start to eat into your balance, or what they refer to as carryover. So the last 3 years we were in the black. And one of the reasons, we don't have additional revenues, but our expenses continue to go up.
Does that account for that large difference then? Is what you're saying? That's too big. What you just said is the reason for the big difference this year for the deficit spending?
Well, we're deficit spending for one reason. We are spending more than we're taking in. That's the bottom line. But if you look at our revenues are staying flat, are going down slightly. Our expenditures are going up. And now we have our debt payment from the building project, which is bumping that up more than it was in the past, the expenditures. Are you with me? Okay, so 7.01 and 7.02, those are the beginning and ending cash balances each year, as I'm projecting. So we still have, a cash balance until we get out to 19. However, it's not taking into account the renewal of the levy, so I'll show you that at the bottom. Line 9.03, that is the reserve that we have set aside. So you have to take that into account too. Because that's considered revenue. So there you see the revenue from the replacement renewal levy. And because tax levies are on a calendar year, and we report on a fiscal year, only half of that would be in fiscal year 17. And that levy generates about $4.25 million each year. So line 83, that's the number that you look at as far as a cash balance when you're certifying contracts. For example, negotiated agreements and so on. You can afford what you're agreeing to. So the good thing is we're still black out till fiscal year 19, but barely.
that's it.
Anybody have any questions? And then I've got also in the packet the assumptions that kind of spell out, you know, the percentages and the amounts for each type of revenue and expenditure. And I also listed in there for you, like for example, under purchase services, all those things that go into that category. Because it's not only paying for personnel that doesn't work in our district that we're contracting for, but it's also repairs, electric, heat, tuition to other schools for open enrollment and that kind of thing. So I've got that listed in the assumptions for you.
Suzanne, a question that wasn't asked that maybe would be on the minds of everybody possibly too is that, and we're not sure if this is just standard with all treasurers, but with you being new to our district, I think Amy, when she did her forecast, and I can't remember, Dave, I think you might have been here during that last forecast when we went into negotiations. Did you build in any teacher or classified raises, or is that just with the
Only
raises being
steps.
flat?
Only steps.
So no raises, steps? Okay.
Correct.
Any discussion or questions?
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mr. Harding?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, on to item 9, discussion items. The first item up is the Apple lease.
Yeah, we talked about this at the last work session, about the timing of the payments of the Apple lease. And we talked about possibly next year not renewing that lease, but trying to go a year without making a payment and making those last one more year. And you asked that, you know, Sean might be able to answer some questions. So he prepared this worksheet, and do you mind going over that, please?
Top of it, you'll see the specifications. The top list is, you guys mind if I sit and tell stuff?
No, it's not.
You'll see at the top of it is the specifications that we purchased in 2012. We got them at a deeper discount because they were 2011 models. And then just below that, you'll see the newest edition, early 2015. And below that, the tech specs that have been upgraded. It's 2 minor things: faster wireless and a longer battery life. So at this point, it's hard to make the recommendation that we would go into a new lease, meeting our current needs for students and staff.
And I did not factor that into the forecast. The forecast assumes we're gonna pay that same amount every year. So if we don't renew that this next fiscal year, then I would be able to decrease 1 year by $667,000 or something was the payment. per
Yes.
year.
Yes, was that last
Yeah,
time?
if you take that top line and divide it by 3, that will be the lease payment.
Old plus repairs.
Yes,
Yeah.
then, yes, you have to build in repairs, and that's kind of an unknown.
That is the unknown. The majority of our repairs that we do now are covered under the Apple Care. So the technicians enter the serial number in and order the parts they need, and they come to us.
By going out an extra year, are we decreasing the warranty that we have on some of those?
The warranty's up June 25th of this year.
Skipping ahead though a little bit, if you look at the bottom line, because Sean got the quote for insurance, if you were to get a 0 deductible insurance policy, you would be able to you'd be fully covered for $254,000. So you know that the insurance company is charging a high dollar for that premium, and we see spending 50% of that possibly at the worst case scenario. So if you take the 600 minus whatever we're gonna pay for that deductible, we're still ahead. And there's not a significant upgrade to the machine at this point. We said we were gonna try to stretch this 1 more year at least. we can't promise 2, but that's a substantial savings from
Well-
that payment.
That's the big
We're gonna
advantage.
go 1, but if at the time, we'll reevaluate again around this time and decide whether or not we want to try to stretch it another year.
Well, that's one of the big advantages why we went to the solid state technology
Right.
versus.
Yeah.
They're very durable.
Yeah.
One thing that we, Sean and I talked about that today. I think that a lot of school districts went with the Chromebooks and a cheaper product, but in the end, there's no buyback and a lot of problems with them. It's just been a good product. It was a good choice.
You can see, we got a quote on April 29th, just because we were looking at numbers to evaluate the next step. The current fleet on April 29th was worth $566,000. So that will go down next year, but they're still holding value, a third of the value, close to a third.
And what do you spend on repairs?
Right now, we're the $50, this is like a self-insurance thing, we're
Breaking even?
yeah, but that also purchases bags, maybe some of the items the techs need.
Well, it's
So
outstanding then.
yeah, it is. And Phil and I talked last Thursday, I think, that students are getting better with them. We've had 38 crack screens compared to 60 or 75 in years past, and that's 38, and that's May 11th, I ran that number today, so. And then all the parts are still relatively available, so we order a part, it ships overnight.
And it's important.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's
we're
the way
happy
to
with,
go then.
happy with the product, happy that we're going to go another year. Let's reevaluate again at this time next year or a little bit sooner. If we can go 1 more year, that's more savings. We won't promise that, but at least we've got this year out of 1 more year extra that we weren't sure we were able to get.
So then to reiterate, the lease on the current fleet is paid up and there won't be a lease payment next year.
We own them as of now. The last lease payment included $1 buyout, so, and that last lease payment was made last August.
Could put that dollar in the forecast, I hope.
So, in our infrastructure, the new building included a lot of the core infrastructure. We have redundant wireless controllers and switches and servers now.
Okay.
So we're up to date. I wouldn't even make recommendations to invest in that, the new building.
Yeah, it's been a good investment. I think that we're really happy that this is one like it has.
Good.
As always, reach out if you have any questions.
Thanks, Sean.
You can stay up here if you want.
Oh, no, we're not. Item number, any other discussion, conversation on the police? Number 2, board docs, online availability of board agendas, attachments, minutes. I know that's in the meeting review, that's one of the attachments we had to look over exactly what that is. Several months ago, we looked at something similar, but it had never been used by school boards before. This one specifically is from the OSBA, is that correct?
It's.
Or recommended
Yes.
by OSBA?
Yes, Cindy and Sean and I looked at a webinar on the board docs, and there are 2 options. You can go with an LT and then a Pro version. And we would just like to try this and start with an LT version, if everyone is willing to get their agendas online opposed to getting things on paper, and try it out.
So,
What's the cost to the district?
The board docs LT, well, no matter which one you go with, there's $1,000 setup and training, because they would actually come in and do training for the board and whoever does the agenda and the minutes. It's $2,700 a year for that. The board docs Pro is a little over, I think it's like $10,700 or $10,000, right around $10,000 a year. And so I don't know that we would get our money's worth on that. I'd really have to evaluate to want to spend $10,000 on it. But the $2,700, I think the savings on staff and the efficiency, we could start building things ahead of time. You wouldn't have to wait till 3 or 4 days before the agenda to start looking at things. Cindy could start building those as things come in, and she could just attach them right in there. So I think think it would be great, so you could, you know, if you wanted to, if you wanted to look ahead, you could. You can also put your board policy, well, I'm not sure about the LT version. It also would keep the board minutes and the agendas from previous meetings.
So I was gonna ask, so it does build a library?
Mhm.
So
And
then
that's one
ideally,
thing that I
ideally, we
think would
can
be
stop
great.
doing this, right?
Correct.
That's good, because then I think at that point, that would pay for itself for the time
Yeah, I
and
think the
materials.
LT definitely would. So if everyone's on board, we'll try to, you know, get set up, maybe do the training this summer. If there's no
Sounds good
opposition.
to me.
I think
So
the value
then-
of ease, like you said before, too, going back to reference
Mhm.
older things rather than digging through papers.
And you could
Type
do
in
a
the word, look,
search.
yeah,
Right.
search, and it's got everything at your fingertips that you want.
Like paper.
You did? I did too.
You can print it out, too.
It's just
So
nice for
everyone,
the days versus, I mean, I got this here,
yeah.
for other things, but.
So you could bring a tablet or a laptop, or if you needed us to provide one for you to use, we could, you know, do that too. So we just have to work out those details.
But as far
I
as,
think it's worth a try.
as far as agendas for the general public, the council still have a hard copy for that, or?
I don't know. I mean, we could put it up on the wall.
The only thing I'm concerned about is, you know, I don't care about making it a whole lot easier for me. I really don't
Right.
care about that. Because it's not hard now. If there's some benefit to the public to grant them access or for disclosure of everything that's kind of going on, if there's a benefit there, then that's fine.
Yeah.
If not,
There would be, you know, whatever time you decide or whatever point in the agenda to release it to the public, and then we would probably put a link on the website, our
Yeah,
website.
looking at area websites, Elyria City Schools is probably the closest that uses it here. So if you look at their website, you can click on it and then actually use it from like a public perspective.
And I-
Elyria?
Yeah.
I did attend one of their board meetings in the fall and really liked it. The treasurer said it was great, you know, for recording the minutes. Because literally you just turn it into the minutes. I mean, I'll record as we go in there and, you know, we get minutes done quicker.
I don't think, I mean, it would be fine just to have like a handful of printed agendas to set out for the public, but as far as we go, you know, all this backup data that we
Yeah.
get is much easier stored online, where if, you know, if we wanted to refer to something, go in, you grab it, it's there.
Right.
You
You
know,
don't have to take it home and file it, it'll be there.
I'd like to tell you guys, I go home and read all this stuff, and, you know, but it's really just reference material.
But when we have questions about, you know, going back to the IRG and collecting money and all that, I mean, digging back through all of your things is difficult to find it, where you just search it and you've got,
there she, boom.
yeah. Any
Sean, do
question?
you have anything to add?
Yeah, even the attachments are searchable.
Okay.
So if she did her 5-year forecast and put it on there, that's searchable. So it's
So,
even more powerful.
And then again, to go along with Dave's concern, the public can still get in, you know, we want to make it easy for them too. We don't want to try to make it where there's no papers, you can't see anything, but it will all be where they can
Mhm.
get in and look at it as well.
Quicker. than
Contracts,
this now.
everything, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because, you
That's
know,
important.
the public a lot of times forgets what your 5-year plan was, you know, your original plan. So now you can, if, you know, you can actually search.
Okay.
So I think that would be, if that's the case, now make sure that, you know, the word search, you know, the pro version versus the light version, you know, make
Sure,
sure
we
it's
do all
gonna
that,
do what
yeah.
you need to do.
And it says you can keep 10 years of history, and then they can put it on a DVD and archive it beyond 10 years.
Maybe what we can think about doing, Sean, I don't know if that's possible, but set up a few laptops in this room that people can come and if they feel comfortable enough to.
I mean, the room is workforce, so there's guest laptops in
Right.
the room already. There's a cart across the hall, so it would just be
that way they've got access to the attachments.
Well, and there's no reason that as we're going through a board meeting, that it can't be right there on the board.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we can still have a few paper copies if people don't want to use the computer.
Right.
We just don't want to start slowing down board meetings when we're doing searches for stuff in the past. You know, so, unless it's really relevant.
But when you're home studying the agenda,
Yeah.
if you want to go back and look things up, then you can go back and say, what did we do
That would be
a
the
year
biggest
ago?
benefit for me
Mhm.
Right.
personally.
Okay, we'll move forward with that. Putting that going.
Do you need a resolution to move forward?
I don't
Or
think
can we
so.
just- Because of the cost, we don't think that.
So,
Item number 4, therapy dogs.
If I could go back one step, I was just going to talk to you a little bit about the universal design.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I skipped over.
There's an attachment there that gives an explanation. Attachment B. The school district is taking on some professional development this June and over the summer. And the Universal Design for Learning, UDL, is an approach of basically a flexible curriculum and flexible instructions and materials that are accessible to all students. And so these workshops that we're going to be doing are going to be talking about those principles to our staff, and we'll be presenting information basically on a framework of the principles of this design process. And it's not complicated. We really want to stress that this is just, it's not another initiative or an add-on or something that the teachers have to now get stressed over because we're just adding one more thing. Basically, it's a framework that brings all of our learning initiatives together and ties them together and provides strategies for them to successfully integrate their day-to-day curriculum. So this is just something that we're working on. I wanted to make the board aware of it, that there will be professional development that is centered around this, and just bringing it to your attention. And further board meetings will give you more information about what it is, how it works, how it's going, how it's part of the OIP process, and how it's affecting what we're ultimately being accountable for in that report card. So I just wanted to bring it up real quick tonight and let you know that it's part of what we're doing, but I don't believe we're stressing. I'm going to try not to stress the teachers anymore by thinking that, okay, this is one more initiative that we're doing.
And then also, this is something that the district leadership team has been talking about for a while, which includes teachers, administrators, and such. So
Right.
it's not just something that we thought we'd try.
That's
It's
right.
been in discussion for quite a while.
Right, and that OIP team at the building and the district level, so, sure.
Another thing on the board docs I forgot to mention was you can also put video clips in it. So when we record the board meeting, you could actually put it in there also for public to watch.
Also, like Dave presented the student film festival last week, you could put, we
Okay.
got embedded YouTube video of that, students working into it.
Okay.
Pro version, I'm sure, right?
No, it's LT.
It's LT?
Yeah, I just looked before I said it. Yeah, it's LT version.
I'm just.
So I thought that would be really nice, since we record our board meetings.
Again, access, public access to everything we do is the most important thing. If that's gonna improve that, I'm for it then.
Okay, the next item that I had for discussion is therapy dogs. This has been talked about at the high school level with the workforce development program with the special ed team. And I was lucky enough to have an experience as a principal to have a therapy and a trained service dog in my school for 8 years as a principal. And I can tell you that it was a great experience, and I think it made a big difference in just the overall climate and characteristics of a building to have one of these dogs in the building. It just changes the mood, it changes the climate. I know that you're all becoming more aware of seeing some of these dogs and what they could do for nursing homes and for veterans and for various people. And I think that the presence of a dog properly trained makes a big difference in the way that just everyone interacts with each other. So I'd like the board to think and be open-minded about the possibility of us doing this. I've contacted our law department just like I did back then, and there's really no laws on the books that prevent it. And so I think that I'd really like us to consider the possibility of this. And as we're going through the summer and we're looking at what dogs are available and where we might use them, I could inform you about that, but I hope that maybe you'd be open to this. I think that, there's gonna be questions about, well, what about allergies, or what about if the dog bites someone? Well, allergies in a large building, I can tell you that I'm sure that there might have been someone in the building that I was in, but there were 600 kids in that building, and it really never was a problem, and it was not as open and did not have some of the spaces like this building did either. So it just never became a problem with the allergies, and we found a way to not make it a problem. Usually these dogs are just so well trained that there are no issues in terms of
Golden retriever.
Perfect. Pardon me?
Golden retriever.
That's what we had, honestly. The dog that I had was a golden retriever, and the kids just love them.
Is this just elementary level you're talking about?
No, we're
or-
talking, I'd like to think about the possibility of doing it district-wide, one in each building, if we can.
Well, yeah, one of
It
the,
would not cost the district anything. It would be a dog that would be kept by a staff member. They
Well-
take the dog home.
I don't know if you remember, at a previous board meeting, I brought up the idea of the service dog for security. So, I'd reach out to that company and see if we could use it for dual purpose, because there was tremendous advantages to having those service dogs, in the event of attackers and those types of
Right.
things to go after immediately. Same type of concept, but if we can incorporate both for public safety,
Okay.
for our children, I would be, and I know there's a cost to that as far as the continuous training of the dog, and there's a cost to the dog, but that was that's something that to me was really important potentially.
We saw it down at Columbus 2 years ago.
That's right.
And we got a lot of good feedback on that too, same thing. It
Right.
changes the mood in the building,
Right,
people really take to it, kids love it.
right.
I've got 2 dogs, I'd be happy to turn loose.
Trust me, you don't want those dogs.
They would train dogs.
Well, we've had some teachers that have talked to their principals that say that they'd be interested in possibly getting the training and the certification, so I think that it could be pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I'd say investigate it.
Right.
Good. Well, I'll bring more information about that. I don't have this item on the discussion, but I just want to mention and remind people that this Thursday is the alumni social and auction. We're working, this will be our first alumni event, and we really want to start recognizing our alumni and finding ways that we're going to involve them more within the school district. And so they're having an auction with some memorabilia that's for sale, and all of this memorabilia is in triplicate or quadruple form, so we're not getting rid of things that are needed. We just have so many of them, so it's a way to raise a little bit of money. And it's just a good way, I think, to bring the alumni into the building and recognize that we need to work with them more. So just a reminder that, and that event is from 6 to 8 p.m. this Thursday night in the Commons.
I was working today on that project, and there's a lot of amazing photographs they have.
That's neat stuff.
I was involved with trying to get some of that stuff, even not just school related, but community related too. So there's some amazing stuff that they have that's going to be available that night, I think. That's going to be fun for the public to see.
Yeah, there's photographs, there's yearbooks that date back to the 1920s, newspaper articles, it's neat stuff.
We'd like to, and I talked to Candy from the photojournal. She gave me an old photojournal about the old schools and things that, some history of the school district, but some of that memorabilia that is there too. We'd like to create, I think in the commons area above the kitchen, would be probably a good spot of just to show the timeline of a visual history of what's here in the school district. And that way, the people that come into the schools can see what it was and where it was and where we're going. So we'll take some of that and try to put that together. We did have two teachers that came, Mrs. Arndt and Mrs. Sadinsky, that made a presentation about this, and they showed some of that. So it's going to be an exciting night. We're looking forward to it. That's all I had for the discussion items. And then, we're going to
Why don't we do the executive session first, then
No, we just needed Tim for the facility update.
is there anything that we might want? All right.
Just general, can I go ahead with the
Sure.
agenda?
Yeah.
I'll just run through that while he's getting. All right, on to item 10, the consent agenda. Superintendent and treasurer recommend that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of the consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board, the treasurer, or the superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately. A, review the May 12, 2014 board meeting minutes. B, approve minutes of the April 13, 2015 regular board meeting and the April 27, 2015 work session. C, approve the following fundraisers for policy 5830 as listed. D, authorize 2015-2016 membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. E, approve 2015-2016 county service agreement with the Educational Service Center of Lorain County. F, approve Lorain County interagency agreement for early childhood and Head Start services. G, approve service agreements for project search for the 2015-2016 academic year with Educational Service Center of Lorain County. H, approve the following employment action as listed, because there are pages of it. It's just renewing teacher contracts and coaches are listed there. Any items to be removed from the agenda?
Are there any new coaches amongst us?
Brand new.
No, brand new.
No, they're pretty much all names that have been on the agenda at one time or another.
All right, I'll move to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
Just one comment. And I don't see anything wrong with it, it's just, we've talked about before and probably new for Andy, but we talked before about trying to group the sports seasons in
Right.
separate consent agendas.
Right.
And this has some winter, but not all winter. This has, as I see, at least one spring one, and that's a whole year away. So, if anything, we should be talking about fall sports if there's any changes.
Which one is the spring one?
Pisano for middle school track.
Yeah, and that, that's my fault.
And I think that's a given.
Yeah.
He's been doing it forever. That's not a problem. It's
Yeah,
just,
but you're right, and I talked with Tim about this, and I forgot to talk to Andy today,
Yeah.
and I forgot to pull it off.
and it's not that there's any issue with approving those. It's what has happened in the past is there's been instances where something got overlooked and it never made an agenda because we thought it was on a different one. So if you
Right.
do an entire season at once, you know you've got it all covered.
Yeah, Tim and I talked about this today, and I should have pulled it off, so that's my oversight, because we did talk about those groupings, and
Yeah.
just for the exact reasons that you're saying. You don't want things
Do you
to
want
get
pull it off,
lost.
Dave?
No, I don't want to pull anything off. I
Just
just,
going forward.
I just want to make sure that we're checking real good when we come upon it. We don't want to get upon a season and then say, holy mackerel, we didn't approve this one, or we didn't hire this person yet.
Use board docs to look
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else?
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Haberman?
Yes.
Mr. Harding?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Item number 12, second round of public participation. Is there anybody that would like to come speak? All right, moving on, and do you want to pick up Mr. Lee?
Yeah,
Jump back.
going back to the beginning of the superintendent's report, we have been doing facility report outs, and rather than me do it, we're going to go with Mr. Reedy, who's the administrator for the project. And so, Tim, if you wouldn't mind coming forward and telling us what the latest is on the projects.
Okay, thanks. Elementary school, I'm sure you've all read the reports, it's been out the last couple of weeks. The building is completely flushed out now. All the fillers have been changed, so that part of the project is done, and that's good. The technology punch list is narrowing down. There's a few items left. They've been coming in and out as needed, and there's a training scheduled for May 2nd. June 2nd, right? That's coming up as well. The roofing, they've been out finishing that punch list. There's still some scuppers that need finished up, and that should happen over the next couple of weeks. The asphalt is finally going to start this Thursday. We're going to do proof rolling. That's to verify that everything that's been in place for the whole winter is okay. If there's any bad spots, they'll be repaired before the topping is put on. And I certainly hope that next week we're putting the topping. The following week we're putting the topping on. Landscaping, they're about 85% complete. They probably have a couple more days of work. I've called and tried to get the guy back out here this week. Obviously it rained again today, so that they can't come tomorrow. But I'll definitely stay after them to get that done. In the high school and middle school projects, again, it's completing punch lists. The biggest of which is the floors in the kitchens, and we're making arrangements to have that work completed should the contractor not be able to do that. So we're getting into that the next couple of weeks. The erection of the field house, the structural steel is all complete with the exception of some of the front entrance, and the couple pieces are leaving out for deliveries, the cranes and so forth. The roof is on all three buildings. The siding is started, the masonry is ongoing. One small piece of concrete floor is poured. Expect to have the locker room floor poured this week. I am a little concerned about the weight room. The weight room area is scheduled to be completed May 29th, and they're about 6 days behind that, so that's concerning. But they say they can make it up with more manpower and working weekends. But we're still, I mean, that's coming along pretty quick. But we have a meeting on Wednesday, and I'll be able to update you on Friday in my report exactly where they're at. All the underground utilities are in. The landscaping and seeding of the ball field is supposed to happen next Monday, was the day they gave me today. So hopefully they'll be over and do that. All the topsoil's in place. They fixed the that walk in front of Sailorway there in the corner. I don't know if you saw that, but that's all coming together nice. So that should be much easier for everyone to walk around. I did also call the gas company today to finish their work, and he responded that they would get somebody out there as quick as possible. That's the ditch between the walkway and Sailorway that's been eyesore. So hopefully we'll stay after them and get that taken care of as soon as we can too. I think that's about it. That's about all I have to report for the.
So I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
When I did the walkthrough at the field house, the finish work on the beams, is there gonna be any paint?
Yeah,
So they'll have a finished look to the beam?
Yeah, everything is painted. That's just primer on there now.
And what about there's an insulation between the roof and the beam, and that's, that piece of insulation, is there any panel or anything that covers that?
No, that is the finish.
So is that like one long run of insulation, or how does that
For
work?
them, there's some places where it's seamed, but yes, mostly they use as long a piece as they possibly can.
So if a ball hits that though and rips it, is there a way to repair it?
I can't answer that for sure. I'm sure there must be, but I mean, that material that's on there is made, it's somewhat abusive, it's made to be abused by a ball.
Because maybe it's gotten better, I hope, because I've been in some of those facilities where I've seen that's ripped. I don't know if you have ever seen that, but it looks bad. And I'm hoping that
I'll
there's
look
like a
into that.
repair material or something.
I'll look into that. I really don't know the
Yeah,
answer.
if you could check on that, because I just hope that the first ball that hits it or something doesn't rip through it, and then we've got a way to repair it.
I'm sure there's like a little square with somewhere tested.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been, it's more of a question for the manufacturer. I'm sure they're.
And on a practical note on the because we're coming into that season now, they've got the elementary school seeded and they got it strawed. As soon as if the grass starts growing there, but weeds start growing there, which they are, I'm assuming that we're responsible for whatever's growing there right away, right? They're not gonna be
No.
responsible for going back
Yes, they will.
one final time and cleaning up the weeds?
Yes, they maintain it for a period of time. I don't know if it's, I'll read the spec more and get more familiar with it, but either they might tell you that they have one cutting or two cuttings or a certain amount of time that they have to maintain everything.
So that
And
includes
should be-
controlling the weeds?
It should be weed-free, yes,
Yeah.
it should be a weed-free.
Because I can
When they're
see
done.
it's gonna get out of control quick.
Yep.
And we're trying really hard everywhere around the campus to clean things up and make it look good. And so they can pay attention to that. I don't want to make our guys responsible for that.
Okay.
I was going to tell our crew because I wasn't sure how that was going to work. But if that's good to know that they're responsible for it.
I'll dig into that and I'll let you know what that responsibility is. Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Debbie.
All right, on to item 13, recommend a resolution to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters which are the subject of pending or imminent court action. I'll move.
Second?
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.